to connect with you guys and see what's going on. The recording is just about to start. There we go. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do just a very quick and shallow dive into the basics of Office 365 or Microsoft 365 as it's now called. Again, there is a dedicated session, Microsoft 365 for newbies, and they have been recorded. So if you look at this and go, oh, look, I really don't know anything about this whole Microsoft thing, and I need to spend more time, then you can access those recordings, right? Whichever cohort that you are in. So what I'm going to get you to do now, though, folks, is I'm going to get you to pop into the chat. I want you to tell me what your most used Office app is, right? So you think of the Office apps that we know and love. Which one do you think you use the most? So if you can pop that in the chat for me. Which app do you use the most when you think about Office? Word, Excel, OneNote, Class Notebook, Word, Publisher, or you're old school, still printing job. Word, Outlook, yes, exactly. Outlook would be the one I would dare say most of you use the most. It would actually be Outlook because you're checking your email. A lot of us don't think about Outlook being in Office because we're maybe a little bit older. Someone's saying Teams there as well. Yep. Word and Publisher. Okay, cool. Good job. All right, so I'm going to take you through just the basics of Office and get you to get your heads around this a little bit. So what happens with Office is released every 3 years, and it's got a date after it usually. Office 2019, Office 2016, Office 2013, God help us, Office 2010. Now, these usually released the year before the date, right? So Office 2019, for example, was released in in 2018. So it's actually a 3-year-old version of Office. But this is the Office that we know and love, okay? So things like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, some of you OneNote, Outlook, and these are all installed on our machine, whether we're on a PC or whether we're on a Mac. These are installed and these have got apps, okay? Now what we've also got is we've got our cloud version of Office, okay, which comes through the browser. Actually, it's all in the cloud, but I don't want to confuse you, but through the browser, which is what we call Office 365 or Microsoft 365. You can choose which one you want to use. And that's where we start to look at our tools through the browser, right? So Word through the browser, Excel through the browser, these other tools, okay? And you can access that by going down to office.com. Now, we have a huge saturation in terms of what we're doing in business and what we're doing in education with the installed version of Office, right? Most teachers, almost all teachers will have this. Certainly departments, within the departments, the students, whether they've realized it or not, they've actually got paid versions of this, etc. And then we've also got this Office 365, which lives in the cloud. So those of you that know and love the Google tools will be used to seeing a lot of what you can do in Google. In fact, almost all that you can do in the Google space, you can do in the Office 365 space as well. So that experience is very, very similar. But where we have an advantage is our online, offline experience. So you've still got Office 365 in the cloud, but you've also got the traditional fully installed version of Office down here. And these two talk to each other. All right. Now, the problem with Office 2019 is, I don't want to say the problem. I want to say one of the things I want to highlight to you about 2019 is that it doesn't mature. So if the version of Office that you have has a date next to it, then that's the same version of Office as was released when it was released. You don't get any feature updates. And that really matters to us when we're doing the inclusive classroom, because a lot of the tools and the features and bits and pieces that we want to share with children and we want to share with others need to be accessible, and they're not necessarily going to be in an older version of Office. So what most of you, and dare say all of you, have access to either from your department or from your peak body, whether it's Catholic Diocese or from the school directly, is we have a version of the installed software which is called Microsoft 365 apps. And this is just to confuse you, right? It's not just to confuse you. Microsoft 365 apps will mature and will get all the updated features and bells and whistles. And every time there's a feature update, it will be rolled into this. This one stands still. this one keeps moving and growing. And again, when we're talking about accessibility features, that's really important. So what's going to happen today with some of you is I'm going to start to demonstrate things, and you're going to go into your version of Office and you're going to say, mine's not doing it. Where is it in mine? And that's because you're using an older version of Office. Okay. Now, what your school, department, or peak body has done for you is they have purchased this version, but not necessarily made you aware that it's available. But what's interesting is that you've actually got 5 free copies. So you can put it on your work machine, PC or Mac, and you can also put it on your home machines and the home machines of anybody else that lives in your home with you. Okay, so what that means is, you know, $150, $200 worth of software is actually available to you that you may not have known was there. So I'm going to show you how to access that. And what we do is we come over here to www.office.com, or you can just go to office.com, that's fine. So you open your browser and you go to office.com. And when you come to office.com, office.com is going to look like this, okay? And there's a little button over here that says install Office. Now, boys and girls, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. Please do not start to install this software now, because it's going to slow your machine down and you're going to get distracted from what we're doing today. But later today at lunchtime or after our session, excuse me, after our session, hold on, I'm going to do that again, but this time on mute. Then you can install it then, okay? But there's a button up here that says install Office. I'm going to click on that for you. All right, so what you'll do is you'll get on the machine that you want to install the latest, greatest version of Office software onto. You will click install Office, okay? After coming to office.com, you'll click install Office, follow the instructions, and it will install. Now, if you hit any snags, please go and see your techie, okay? Or someone at your school that's good with technology, and get them to help you, because you may hit some sort of error on the way. But for most of us, it will be a fairly seamless experience. We get on the machine we want to install on, we go to office.com, we sign in with our school email address and password, then we click on this install Office button and follow the instructions, and that will install it. Now that's one copy, right? If you put it on your work machine, but then you can put it on your home machine, PC or Mac, and you can do that up to 4 other machines, as long as those people live in the same household as you. All right, so there's $100 to $200 worth of software. Does anyone have any questions about that? Come off mute if you do. Nope. All right, you're going to keep me talking? No worries. Okay, so what we're going to do now, though, is I'm going to take you back into that Office start page that I just showed you. I just showed you a graphic, but I'm going to take you into a live version of the Office start page, because I just need to explain a few things to you. Again, we're not going to do a deep dive. Please grab the video if you want to find out more. But when you come into your Office start page, the first thing that we notice is you're going to have your recommended files, you're going to have your recent files and all your files and all that kind of stuff coming in here as at your start page. But over here, we've got all our apps. Okay, now these are not the installed apps. This is not Office with a date after it. This is Office in the cloud coming through the browser. So we have Word in the browser, Excel in the browser, PowerPoint in the browser, etc. And they all live in here. Okay, so there are some things that you can do in these apps that you can't do in the fully installed versions, and vice versa. So some contexts are going to call for you to use Word in the browser. Other contexts are going to say, no, it's going to have a better experience down in the full version, all right? But I just want you to make sure that you understand the difference between these apps over here through our browser and the fully installed apps, which we can put on our machine by clicking over here. Any questions about that? Okay, chatty bunch. So over here, you've got your settings when you're in office.com, and you can click on that. Look, I've got these themes. I'm going to view all my themes, and I can change my themes. And the kids can do this as well, of course, and make it a little bit more fun, a little bit more personal if you want to do that. All right, so I'm just encouraging you to go in and have a bit of a play around with that at some point a little bit later on as well. I'm going to change it to that one. That one looks kind of nice. I can also change into dark mode if I want. Now that's going to be really good for some of the students with their eyes. So I can do that in there just by clicking on dark mode. So what I did was I came to office.com, I clicked on the settings wheel up here, scrolled down, and I can turn dark mode on and off. I actually use dark mode all the time. It's better for your laptop battery because it's not pouring out as much power. It's also easier on your eyes, but it's just not good to present with. So I turn it off when I present and then turn it back on when we're done there. So I've got a lot of my apps over here, but not all of them. If I want to see all my apps when I'm in office.com, I click on this app launcher up here, and there's more of my apps, but down here I've got this button here, all apps. I click on that, and there are all my apps, right? Some of those you've never seen before, some of them you'll never use, some of them are hopefully you're going to learn to use. It's going to be an exciting little journey for you. But I can find all my apps through the app launcher. Now, those of you that are on Chrome, don't confuse that with the Chrome app launcher, which is probably going to live up here somewhere. This is our app launcher for Microsoft 365, and we find that when we go to office.com or we go into any of our documents. Again, it's that little Channel 9 logo there. And if ever I want to come back to my start page, I can just go to office.com, or I can just click on this little button here, which will take me back to the office.com start page. Any questions about that? Does each email ID registered with Office 365? Yes, exactly right. Does each individual, if they've got an email address in your Microsoft 365 tenant, get 5 free copies? Okay. Now that's for PC and Mac. It does not affect your any apps that you download to your phone or to your iPad. They are free to download anyway. What's the difference between Office 365 and OneDrive? Office 365 is the whole environment. OneDrive is your storage space. Okay, so OneDrive is just your storage. Office 365 is everything. Okay, so what's happening here is when I'm coming into my Office 365 landing page, it's actually giving me a little window here for OneDrive, but that is my personal storage. And we're going to talk about that in a minute anyway. So good question. All right, let's keep moving. So we talked about signing in. Remember, to sign into Office, you need to just use your normal email address and password that you normally use to check email, those kinds of things. Now, looking at OneDrive, OneDrive is your storage space. Again, we are not going to do a deep dive into this just for the sake of time, but also you'll be able to get that video, as I mentioned before. But every Office file you've ever created now has the potential to be collaborative. In other words, files that live in OneDrive live in the cloud, and you can do a lot of what we're going to do today. So after today, and you can write this down, write yourself a little note, all right? But you need to make sure that your techie or the person that you go to about technical things in your school has got you set up with OneDrive and got the students set up with OneDrive as well, because then we can do all that OneDrive-y goodness, all right? But we get 5 terabyte of storage per user, which is a lot of storage in the cloud. But more than that, once our files are living in OneDrive, they're living in the cloud, and we can do some of the cool things that we're going to explore today. What I would normally do, but we've got 100 people on here, is we would get in and have a look at collaboration. You know what, we might just have a go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a document. Okay, so you guys can see here. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an experience of what it looks like. I'm going to start a document in Word. So I'm going to click on my Word icon here. And what it does is it opens up a start menu here for Word, and I want a new blank document. Okay, and now what it's done is it's opening up Word in the browser. Okay, and if it's been a while since you've done an update, this may look a little bit different, but if you're using M365 apps or 2019, this is what Word really looks like now. So if you know how to use Word, you will know how to use Word in the Penny. We covered a lot of this in Teacher Academy last week, and we're going back to Inclusive Ed now. Penny, not everyone did that workshop, unfortunately, so I do need to cover some of this basic ground with them for sure. So here we are in Word, okay, and I'm going to insert a table, okay, a nice big one. And that's going to get dropped in there in a moment. There it is. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to share this document. I'm going to throw the share link into the chat, and I want some of you to come in. I'm just going to grab this link. I want some of you to come into my document, right? Not everyone. If you're not feeling brave or you don't know what's going on, that's fine. You can just watch what's happening. I'm going to throw the share link now into the chat. So those of you that want to click on that and come into my document, please do. And when you come into my document, I want you to grab one of these squares here, one of these rectangles, and I want you to put in your name and your 5 favorite foods to eat and your 5 favorite holiday destinations. All right. So again, you'll click on that link. It'll open Word into the browser. And then here we go. People are starting to do that. So 5 favorite foods to eat, 5 favorite holiday destinations. And look what happens when I hover over some people. I'm going to be able to get their names, or a lot of these people are guests, right? So they haven't signed in. But if we were signed into our tenant, then we would actually see people's names, all right? But you can see here, people are working on the document at the same time in real time. So when we're working with our students, we can be in the document on 2 different devices, watching what they're doing. Yeah, sorry, Beata, if it's telling you it's too busy, that means we've got too many people in the document already, because we've got 100 people on this call. So yeah, but you can refresh and try again. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that we can be sharing and collaborating on documents, just like we can on some of the other platforms. All right, so that's what that looks like. So I just wanted you to get a sense of that before we moved on. So I'm gonna close that down now. So if you want to jump out of that document, folks, thanks for telling me what you like to eat and where you like to holiday. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump into the inclusive classroom reading support, and we're going to start to talk about what reading support looks like. All right. So so Penny, here we go. We're going to get back into that now. So what happened was, what happens is every year Microsoft have what's called a hackathon. And what the hackathon does is Microsoft staff can walk away from their usual job and they can work on a passion project. They find teams of people within Microsoft who want to do something similar, and then they come up with little projects, and it goes for a week or sometimes 2 weeks, and they get to build something out, right? Which may not be aligned with Microsoft as a business. It may just be something cool to do. And it's really that sort of ideation, dreaming sort of time. Now, what happened in 2015 is a group of people got together and said, we're going to try and tackle dyslexia. We're going to work on dyslexia. And in doing so, they came up with this tool, which they called Learning Tools, and was later rebranded as Immersive Reader. And hopefully some of you have heard of this, some of you maybe not. And those of you who haven't, you're in for a treat. But it won the hackathon in 2015. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share a video with you. Now, this video is a little bit old. I'm just going to stop sharing and reshare, make sure that I've shared my sound. This video is a little bit old, so that talks about talks a lot about OneNote, but Immersive Reader has now moved beyond OneNote. It is certainly still in OneNote, but it is in other tools as well. So as you watch this, you're going to see it in OneNote, but I want you to remember that this is going to be, much broader than just OneNote. Here we go.
Troy, there's no sound.
Thanks, everyone. I don't know why there's no sound. I'm going to try again. We'll see how we go, and we'll start that over again. Cindy, when I start, can you let me know if there's sound or not?
Will do. still can't hear anything.
Okay. Okay, I'm just going to leave the call and try and come back in and see if my my sound returns, because we certainly need sound. So just give me a moment, guys. I'll be right back.
Troy, where are you?
Okay. All right. So you guys can hear me now? Someone
Yes.
respond? Yep. Okay. Let's see how we go with sound now. Hopefully I'm going to get some sound. If you can let me know again, Cindy.
Talking about yesterday, guys.
Yes.
I am a resource special educator. What did we start talking about yesterday, guys? St. Patrick's Day! I am a resource special education teacher. I target groups of students who need intervention for either reading, language arts, or math. These are kids that struggle every day. And to watch them grow and learn and have those aha moments, oh, now I get it, is so rewarding to me, and it just makes my heart soar. We have ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia. I have a student who reads on a 3rd grade level, but then I have a student who reads on a kindergarten level, and I have to find a way to bridge the gap. We've been using OneNote since the beginning of this school year. Even in this short amount of time that we've had it, it's been completely transformational. When we first started using OneNote, I thought, okay, this is going to take us a while to get going, and we're going to have to learn how to use it. 3 days. It took them 3 days to master OneNote. I have a dyslexic student who's also dysgraphic. He still reads on a kindergarten level. He's 10 years old. He's still learning sight words. And, he would tell me all the time that he was stupid. When we started this school year, he read 4 words per minute. For the longest time, I struggled with how to help him. And when we got the learning tools with the immersive reader, he went to 22 words per minute. I never thought in one calendar school year that we would even get into double digits. And he's at 22 words per minute, and he stayed there. For my students especially, it's really transformed their educational experience. I don't know what next year will look like. I don't know what our possibilities are, because in my wildest dreams, I never thought this would be what it is. Sky's the limit.
Okay, cool. So as I said, that video really sort of went on a bit about OneNote, because that was the tool where it sort of started. But I'm going to give you a bit of a demo today of Immersive Reader, which is what it's now called. Okay, so we rebranded it. We talk more about learning tools being our whole inclusive classroom sort of kit. But Immersive Reader is specifically this one that we use for reading support. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in Word. I'm going to come into a document here. And I just realized that what I have done is I have not set this up. So just chat amongst yourselves for a moment, because I do need to just go in and just dial it all back so that you guys can watch me build it out. So as I said, just chat amongst yourselves for a moment while I turn all this off. And then that way you can actually see it build out. Which is going to show you a little bit more how it looks and how you can actually use it with your students. Okay, so bringing this document back in. So scenario here is if I had a piece of text that I wanted my students to read, maybe it's you know, a piece of printed text from a book, or maybe I'm using it as a handout, or maybe they're reading each other's or their own work. Now, once upon a time, what I might have done was give them this, give them this as a handout. But obviously, with kids, and talking about differentiation, with kids that had special needs, I may have had to build special resources for all those kids. But what Immersive Reader does, or for the kids that need it, what Immersive Reader does is it allows the student to personalize according to their needs. All right. So here we have a piece of text. Let's say we've got a grade 3 girl, okay, and she is dyslexic. She's been diagnosed with dyslexia. Please have a look at what I'm about to share with you through other lenses and other challenges, of course, but in this scenario, we're going to go through dyslexia. Now, what happens is by putting it into Word online, we have a series of features that she could access directly in the document. But I want her to not be overwhelmed by all the buttons and the bells and, you know, the colors and all this kind of stuff as well, which is, you know, depending on different challenges is going to get in the way. Now, what our little girl knows how to do is she knows to click on View, and then she looks for the Immersive Reader button, which lives here. Okay, so she clicks on the Immersive Reader button, and the first thing that we notice is the app is completely stripped away. Okay, so there's no more Word, no more buttons, no more bells. And we've still got, because I'm in the browser, we've still got the browser up here. I can get rid of that by clicking here on Enter Full Screen Mode. And now what's happened is I've only got, so I'm just going to get rid of that pin there. Now what happens is I've only got the app, all right? And I've only got the document. So you can see that what it's done is it's thrown the text, black text on white background. It doesn't matter what the original text looks like. When I do this, what I did for you guys is I dialed it all back, okay, and set it all at the beginning, but it will remember the settings. So once we set this up the first time on her device, she will always come in to have the document look the way that she wants it to look. So staying with me, boys and girls, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. This is what you're paid to see, okay? So I'm just watching a lot of you on the video, and I know that some of you are in your emails and things. Stay with me, because this is, as I said, this is what you're paid to see, not that you're paid anything. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on the text preferences button up here. Now, we don't need to go into the settings of the app, the settings of the Mac or the PC or the, you know, Word settings or anything like that. This is all happening inside the document. And the first thing that she can do is she can increase and decrease her text size by sliding like this. All right. So she's going to set it there. Now she's dyslexic. So what she wants is she wants spacing between the letters, between the lines, and between the words. We know that's what really helps with visual crowding with a lot of people who have dyslexia. So we're going to click on this increase spacing button here, bang, and look what happens. The lines, the words, the letters are all spaced. We've also got 3 simple fonts. Okay, we've got Calibri, Sitka, and every primary teacher's favorite, Comic Sans. You may have heard of a thing called the dyslexia font. There's nothing wrong with the dyslexia font, but save your money, because these 3 fonts are simple, clear, and we can play with the spacing, and that's what we need for dyslexia. You've got the ability to change the lighting again, and we've talked about contrast and things like that before, which is going to hopefully be helpful to some students in terms of lighting and other things as well. We can go into dark mode, etc. All right, but where it gets really cool, and I'm going to need someone to let me know if there is no sound, and hopefully the sound is going to be here, is when we hit the play button.
Last Christmas holidays I played with my puppy Brandy. I sprayed water at her. I wrestled her and I played soccer with her. We sat down together, we said jokes to each other, we played and played until I had to go into the house and eat lunch.
Now, this is using an AI, an artificial intelligence that you connected to the internet. All right, we have to stress that we're connected to the internet, but this is happening immediately. There's no preparation. Okay, I just type my document in, I click on Immersive Reader, and it starts doing this. Now, do you notice that it was a nice natural Australian sounding accent. She gets a bit South African when she says her, I think. But other than that, it's a nice, natural Aussie sounding accent, all right? And that's because I have set the language pack in my browser to be Australian English. If I set it to American English, it'll read with an American accent and those kinds of things as well. All right, but really simple, clear. Now I can speed that up and I can slow it down. Depending on the accent or the language I'm using, there is female and male. Australian only has female at this stage, all right, because we're still in a preview language. All right, but remember when we talked about universal design for learning, we have to build support and challenge. If we have too much support, the student won't grow. If we have too much challenge, the student won't grow. So it's about helping the student determine what do they need and switching these on. So some of the students are going to need the whole document read to them, which is what you as a learning support teacher will do with them, or an aide. Some of them will only need that word read to them.
Christmas.
All right, so they only need to hear that word. All right. The next thing that we can do though is we can syllabify, right? I was an early years literacy teacher for a very long time. So of course, chunking, right? Breaking the words down into its pieces. So what it will do is it's not going to read these, but they can see it visually. So it will take them and it will break them up by syllable, all right? Together, soccer, etc. The other thing that we can do is we can highlight our parts of speech, all right? So I can highlight my nouns. I can highlight my verbs. I can highlight my adjectives and my adverbs. Now what's happening there is the AI is reading these words and is contextualizing them and telling me whether they are a noun, verb, or an adjective. And what I mean by that is if I come down here, look at what happens when I say, I played tag is a noun, but when she tried to tag me, it's a verb. So the AI is really quite complex and really quite capable. So what it's doing there is it's contextualizing the parts of speech, and we can change, remember, universal design for learning, we want to make it more accessible. So we can change the colors and make, if children have trouble with colors and differentiation, we can change those colors there. And if they really have trouble with colors, we can show the labels by turning that on, and now we can see the verbs, the nouns, the adjectives, and those kinds of things as well. All right. So for our student who was struggling a moment ago with the document looking like this, no matter what the original document looks like, no matter what the font type was, etc., when she comes back into Immersive Reader, because we've set it now, it's going to remember her settings and all documents are going to look the same regardless. So think about it, teacher. Remember we talked about the difference between differentiation and personalization. You don't need to differentiate because the student can personalize and set this up in the way that she wants it. Now, reading preferences, another button. We can do line focus. Look at this. Those of you that want to cover up part of the text, great. We can do 1, 3, and 5 lines. It's because my text is so big, right? It's not giving me the option, but I can do 1, 3, and 5 lines. That's what I can show. Those of you that know Boardmaker as a tool, we use Boardmaker to power our picture dictionary. So now what happens is when I click on a word, I can see it and hear it in English.
Last.
And I get a picture prompt as well. All right. Don't get too blown away by that. We'll get into that a little bit later. But the words that I have, these are not contextualized. Okay. So it's going to give me multiple potential explanations for the word. All right. You can't add to this. It is Boardmaker, and Boardmaker adds things as they go along. All right. So it's pretty cool. So what, again, not every student's going to need every feature. So we have to teach them because, right, we want to scaffold rather than give them too much support, but they can go in there and they can turn that on. Now, this is what happens with my dyslexic girl. She's able to use this. Now we could look at things like low vision and other challenges that we have. And it's a lot of ways I'm sure that you're looking at this that you could use it. But with EAL, it gets really quite exciting. All right. So for example, let's say that I've got a student who's joined my class and she is Korean. Okay. Now what happens for her is her English is quite good. She's done the whole Hagwon thing back in Korea. She's come to Australia. She's in the class. She's done the language school thing, but she does need a little bit of support around languages, right? So what happens now is when she hits a word that she doesn't know, okay, she's still going to get it in English,
holidays.
She's still going to get the picture prompts, but she can also see it and hear it in Korean.
휴가,
All right. So regardless of the word,
Played.
연주,
all right, she gets that little bit of additional support. Now you think of how many of your aides are going to speak these multiple languages? Very few. This is really going to be working with you as well as with your aides and learning support teachers. But we can also translate the entire document if that's what the student needs. So let's jump in here and have a look at this. So I click on document and now it's translated the whole document into Korean. I can go backwards and forwards between the English or the original, whatever that happened to be, and Korean. Okay. And we've got a really nice natural sounding voice in Korean.
지난 크리스마스 휴가 나는 내 강아지 브랜디와 함께 연주. 나는 그녀에게 물을 뿌려 했다. 나는 그녀를 씨름했고 나는 그녀와 함께 축구를 했다.
I'm on mute and talking. Now, anecdotally, when I used to go around, remember the old days when you used to go around and do face-to-face things? When I used to go around to schools and I would speak to teachers who spoke other languages, we would get about a 70 to 100% accuracy rate, depending on complexity of the text and also how good the language is, because not all our languages are as good as each other. Okay, so they've got different features. Some have voice, some don't have voice. Some have got parts of speech, some don't. Some have got picture dictionaries, some don't, etc. All right, so it really depends on the language and the complexity of the document as well, but it really can be very, very good. And as I said, you can get up to 100% accuracy depending. So that's what that looks like. And we've also got dialects as well. Like you can see here, we've got Canadian French, French, and Swiss French, same with German. And when you get up into Chinese, it just goes crazy. We've got different accents. So simplified with a mainland accent, simplified with a Singaporean accent, traditional Taiwan, traditional Hong Kong speaking in Cantonese. It's really quite good. So again, coming back to our original document, for me to build this out for a student or multiple students in my class as a special document, differentiation, onus on teacher, it's going to take a lot of time. But teaching the child how to use Immersive Reader, they can personalize, set it to what they want and what they need, and Bob's your uncle. Okay, now I've shown you with a primary text, but of course, hopefully you're seeing that there's no problem with this with secondary texts as well. And what's really nice about this is using it in the mainstream context as well. So we could throw up a document and so here I am on my app launcher. All right, I'm going to come back to my Office 365 start page. And I'm going to find another document. Oh, I'm going to have to go into OneDrive to find this. Sorry, guys, just give me a moment. Coming into OneDrive. I want to show you a more complex document and how good it actually operates with those. Demo tools. And we are going to have some hands-on time in a minute, guys. You're all going to get to have a play with this on your own machine. And some of you are going to say, mine's not doing it. And I'm going to say, yes, that's right. So let's go here into academic journals. Okay, so here's an article on academic journals. All right, when I click on Immersive Reader, let's let this load. Just got to let the app load. Sorry, folks. Bit of an NBN slow down here. I might just refresh that, I think. Just give me a moment. Now you know it's not just you, technology fails even when you work at Microsoft. We'll get there. There we go. Okay, a bit slow, but we got there. So I'm going to click back on View. I'm going to come into Immersive Reader. There we go. And now it's remembering the settings that our Year 3 girl used. So they're all still there, but it's doing the same thing with a much more complex text. So I can still have it read to me. So, you know, we see this being used in university and the workplace. I can still have it read to me. all right? And I can still get my, let's find, none of these words have got a picture dictionary. Maybe scholarly, no, journal. Okay, finally we found one that's got a picture prompt. So we can still get some picture prompts and those kinds of things in there, but this can be used whether a student is using it in primary, secondary, university, or the workforce, which is why we rebranded it as Immersive Reader rather than Learning Tools, because it's being used by people outside. And the other thing too to remember, we talked about that reduction of stigma. Being able to use this on the laptop with the headphones on in class is much better for a lot of kids than an aide sitting next to them reading out loud to them. Okay, so it does reduce stigma as well. Any questions about this before we sort of move on a little bit? I'm going to give you some hands-on, but I'm also going to tell you a few more things. No?
Hey, Troy.
Yes.
Just wondering about, there's a few questions in the chats about whether this is available for PDF documents as well.
Yes, it is.
Can you maybe just show us an example, please?
I will when we come to looking. We're going to look at other bits and pieces of this tool, and when we do, I'll show you how it works on a PDF.
Cool, thanks.
Question. Thank you. All right, cool. All right, guys. Now, remembering we are finishing for lunch at 1 o'clock, so that's about 45 minutes. So those of you that are counting down, we are nearly there.
There's no sound.
I don't know what's going on with YouTube and me today, but anyway, we'll skip that video because it would be fluffing around too much, I think, if I started jumping in and out of the call. So what we're going to do now then, guys, is we're going to have some hands-on time. Okay, so hands-on time is going to look like this. What I want you to do is I want you to open your browser. Okay, so your browser being Chrome or Edge or whatever it is you use. Hopefully you're not using Internet Explorer. We don't even use that at Microsoft anymore. Its time has been. But I want you to come to office.com. And when you come into office.com, I want you to click on the Word icon that's going to live over here. All right, so come into office.com, sign in if you haven't already. All right, hopefully you did that earlier when we did a bit of an explore. But I want you to come to office.com and then I want you to click on the Word icon here. And then I want you to start a new blank document. Okay? So office.com, click on Word and then start a new blank document. So I'm going to stress this to you guys. This is not Word that you know and love and use on your machine at all times. Okay, I'm not asking you to open up traditional Word. So if you have, shut that down. I want you to come into office.com, click on the little Word button that I showed you a moment ago and come into Word in the browser. All right. Okay, now what I want you to do is when you are in there, I want you to write for me 3 or 4 sentences. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to say, okay? Make it a paragraph though, and I want you to, you can describe the room or tell me what you did for lunch or something like that. After you have written those 3 or 4 sentences, stay with me, you are going to click View, and then you're going to turn on Immersive Reader, and then have a play, all right? So again, come into the document, 3 or 4 sentences, then click View and Immersive Reader, and have a play around, all right? I'm going to give you guys probably about, I reckon, what do you reckon, 7 minutes would be good? Yeah, I'll give you 7 minutes, all right? But shout out to me, come off mute if you've got questions. remember to come off mute if you've got questions. Okay, I'm going to go back.
Sorry,
to
Troy.
Yeah, please.
Can you just show me where to change it to an Australian accent rather than the American?
That's your browser. So you need to go into your browser. I didn't show you. You need to go into your browser settings and change your language to English.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, a couple of questions. How accurate are the translations into Chinese? You'll have to go in there and test that out for yourself, and you can see, as I said, it depends on the complexity of the document, but usually pretty good. Hope they can add more languages. Yes, and they do all the time. Accent we've just dealt with. Is there anything within the MS Suite that will do this with PDF documents? Yes, there's the Edge browser, which Immersive Reader will read PDFs through the Edge browser. So it won't happen in Word, but it will happen through the Edge browser. And we'll talk about that when we come down to looking at Edge a little bit later. Can you slow the rate of reading? Yes, you can. So when you, next to the play button, you'll see another little button down at the bottom, and you can slow and speed it up through there. Can we lower story into MS and use Immersive Reader? You can type a story in, but we're going to have a look at some different ways to get text in. So yes. I typed the doc but cannot see the Immersive Reader. So Immersive Reader, if you are in the browser version, lives under View and Immersive Reader. Can you edit once you have it within Immersive Reader? No. You need to go out of Immersive Reader and make the changes and then come back. But when we look at writing, Immersive Reader inside the full version of Word, rather than the online version, lets you edit inside. So we'll have a look at that when we play around. All right, very good, guys. So now that you know where that lives and you know how to access it, remember we came into Office, okay, our Office 365 start page. And then we simply clicked on the Word document icon there, which is showing us Word in the browser, and then we played around with it in there, all right? So you've got this now. The cool thing about this is it's spread over much of Office, which we're going to play. I'm going to take you through, excuse me, in a minute and show you where it lives. But they don't, it's not specialized technology that the kids have to be embarrassed about or even have to check at the door when they graduate from your school to the next school or whatever. They can take it with them, and then they can even be using it well into the workforce. And that's Microsoft's commitment to this tool. It is something that we are developing more and more, not something that's going to sort of, you know, go the way of Windows 95 or something like that. All right. Now, it will identify foreign languages. Beata says, can you access this through OneDrive, just opening a document? Yes, you can. As long as you open it in Word Online, it's there. This will identify multiple languages, okay? Now, not just translation, meaning that if you've cut and pasted a piece of Spanish text from a website and put it into your Word document, Immersive Reader will recognize that as Spanish, all right? Or Italian or Chinese or something like that. So it's not just the translation, it's also its ability to identify those languages too. One of the best ways to reduce the stigma of these tools is to use them with mainstream students, okay? And so we see this as a great tool, for example, first grade emerging readers for sight word recognition. So these kids are not diagnosed with anything, they're just young, and they're actually able to have their sight words read to them. There's picture dictionary prompts and things like that. I was a early years teacher for a very, very long time. And I used to always be looking for ways to, you know, make sight word recognition a lot more fun. And this is actually a really good tool, right? It's not going to be the only tool you're going to use, but it's a good one. Listening posts and independent reading stations. They're back. Do you remember when I was in the 70s, we had, and in primary school, we used to have cassette decks. Then later, you had, and even at home, we had little golden books with little records. And then later we had CDs, right? These kind of listening posts. Nowadays, you can actually put the text into the into Immersive Reader, and the student can have the text of the book read to them. The other thing that you can do is the student could be holding the actual print copy of the book and be reading along. They don't necessarily need to read along on the screen. So you can adapt the way that you use it with kids according to their needs. One of the studies that we did, this is one of the comments from a fourth grade teacher, or sorry, it wasn't a study we did, it was a study that an independent group did. And they said that they found that the Learning Tools Immersive Reader was an empowering tool. It evened the playing field for kids who are struggling readers. It allows them to feel more like independent learners, not depending on the teacher, not depending on peers, or not depending on the aid, all right? It's all about that independence, which is what we talked about at the beginning. Nearly all of the study teachers, right, people that were involved in the study, mentioned how it enabled their readers, regardless of skill level, to access content aimed at a higher reading level. In this case, access means comprehension of content that had previously been unavailable. So in other words, you may have a group of year 7s that are wanting to use a year 11 level text. Okay, they're not diagnosed with anything, but having it read to them while they read along is actually going to improve their comprehension. Mainstream ways that this can be used is introducing it to the kids, to all the students, not just the students, you know, in inverted commas, that is diagnosed. A trial run by the British Dyslexia Association and Noel Hill, which is a dyslexia school, found that Learning Tools Immersive Reader boosted read this again. A trial finds 16 out of 18 children showed improved behaviour by using learning tools because they can engage the content, right? And 11 out of 16 saw their reading comprehension get better. And that was an earlier version of this tool as well. We've since built other things into it as well. So if we were to replicate that study, we'd probably get better results. But nevertheless, you can at least look at 16 out of 18 engaged and 11 out of 16 saw their reading comprehension scores get better. I shared that link with you in the chat earlier, which is the download for the slides, but all these resources are there as well. So the research studies and stuff, I've put them in there as well, so you can download those and have a look at them if you want to. Another study that was done by RTI, again, independent of Microsoft, 4th to 12th grade students saw their reading comprehension scores improve, saw their writing improve. We're going to look at how that happened a little bit later. Full report is available for you to download through that link, but also I've made it available to you in that original link. And that link, remember, was aka.ms/today's stuff. I've just put it in the chat again, and you can access that. So where does it live? Okay, well, first of all, it lives in Office 365. Which you've all got and all your students have got. That's why you're part of this workshop and part of this school transformation program. So it is available in Office 365. Every teacher and every student can get Office 365 for free if your school doesn't have it, but obviously that's not true of you guys. But it is there available to everyone. We've also got what's called Office Online. So if you go to live.com, create a free account, you can access some of these basic Office tools. And so that's open to everybody. So you can be steering parents and other people in your community to be accessing it through there if they don't have a username and login for Office 365. All right, so that's at live.com. I'll put that in the chat for you, and you can access that for free. And then also we've got it in Teams. So those of you that schools are going on the Teams journey, Immersive Reader lives in Teams, and we'll have a little bit of a look at that later on as well. Okay, so where else does Immersive Reader live? Now we've looked at it lives in Word. Okay, so it lives in Word in the browser, and it lives in the full version of Word, but it does different things. And we're going to explore that more when we look at writing, what it looks like in the full version. But OneNote, it lives in the full version of OneNote. It lives in the online version of OneNote. Okay, so no matter what version of OneNote you're using, you can access this. And the same is true for OneNote for iPad and OneNote for Mac. All right, this is not true of Word. So if you're using Word for the iPad or Word for the Mac, it's not going to be there. You need to use the browser and go through like we just did a moment ago. But if you're using OneNote, it will be in the apps. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions about that? Mac users? So Mac users, again, Mac users and iPad users, you can be using it in the browser, or you can use it in the OneNote, iPad and Mac apps. In 2018, Microsoft was the first company to sign the Made by Dyslexia pledge. We have made a commitment to dyslexia and to helping dyslexics throughout the world. So that's why you see us, harp on about dyslexia. Hopefully, you know, though, that it's much broader than that, what we're doing. We have also partnered with this organisation called Code Red Dyslexia Network. They are an Australian-based organisation. They are national. They're trying to unite the state-based organisations as well. We're happy to work with other dyslexia organisations, of course, but we do have an official partnership with Code Red. And so even in Australia, we're committed to the improving of life for dyslexia and people challenged by dyslexia. Okay. Now we're going to talk about Office Lens, because we've seen how we could get a piece of text, we can type it into Word, and then we can turn on Immersive Reader for the student, right? And that's all well and good. But what about the student that, what about getting text outside of the computer quickly into there, right? Or even letting the student take text outside the computer themselves and bringing it into their computer. So we have an app which is available for your Android phone and Android tablet and iPhone and iPad. And this is called Microsoft Office Lens. All right. So where you find this is you go into your Play Store or your App Store, depending on which one that you've got on your device, and you download it. And then you can sign into it using your school email address, so that way it's connected to your whole Office 365 world. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you another video. It doesn't matter if sound doesn't work on this, guys, because I can talk you through it. But fingers crossed that sound does work. So I'll get someone to let me know if the sound does or doesn't work. But as I said, I can talk you through it if it doesn't. Let's just let that load. YouTube's a bit slow today. There we go. Okay. Did we get sound then?
Nah, no sound.
No sound. Okay, cool. That's all right. I'm going to put the captions on and I'm going to talk you through it. I'm just going to mute that so I don't hear it either. Okay. Okay, so it's using scanner technology, okay, and it will use the camera on your phone. Now, the first thing is we look at whiteboard, and then documents. Now have a look at what whiteboard can do. So at the end of the class, the student is unable to get down all the notes from the whiteboard, right? And that happens for a lot of kids. And what they can do is using their iPhone, their iPad, or their Android phone or Android tablet, they can come up to the screen, okay, take a photograph of the whiteboard from any angle, and it will crop and straighten it for the student. Have a look. So there he is from an angle. Okay, it crops and straightens. And then what it'll do is it will drop that. You can automate it or you can manually do it, and it can drop it into OneNote or it can drop it into Word or whatever it is that you do. And so the student has a copy, a virtual copy of that whiteboard. And it will also, if your whiteboard markers are running low on ink and stuff, it will actually make the colors more vibrant. All right. Okay, so it cleans it up, drops it into whatever tool you want to use or the student wants to use. Okay, now this one's interesting. So when you've got a document outside the computer that you want to actually bring inside the computer, right? So rather than sitting there and typing, you can switch to document mode inside Office Lens and do this. Watch this. So you take a photo of it, it'll crop it and straighten it. You can drop it where you want, like into Word or OneNote or wherever it is you're doing. And then when it brings that text in, it brings it in as a document, not as a graphic. Okay, and you can start typing and editing that document, right? So it's going to save you a lot of time. Even if, forget inclusivity, just for us, this is a time-saving tools for our workflow, right? But we've got that document there that it's grabbed that and it's dropped it in like that for us. Okay, and we can start editing it like that. Okay, now I'm going to jump out of that because I'm going to show you. I'm going to just open OneNote here. No, wrong one. Just give me a moment. Sorry, folks, just give me a moment. I'm just going to find this document for you because I want to show you what this looks like inside OneNote. Just give me a moment. I am actually off screen. I'm on another screen and I'm just opening a document here. And immersive reader samples, there we go. Oh, no, I had the great computer wipe of 2021 and so I've lost that file. So apologies for that, but it doesn't matter. What I'm going to show you now though is when we take it, I'll show you a video instead of what it looks like of taking you through the document. So if we've got a document outside of the computer that we want to use Immersive Reader on, okay, what we can do is by using this tool, we use Office Lens. Now you watch what happens here. I'll just pause it as we sort of go through. But this is coming through an iPhone, okay? So let's say that this little girl is struggling with a piece of text here, okay? So she hovers the iPhone over the piece of text. She clicks on the little she clicks on the Office Lens button and it grabs a version of it, okay? And then we say, and then we can click on what do we want to do with it? We can drop it somewhere, or we just want to click on Immersive Reader down here because it's built into the app. So inside her phone, she is able to have the full Immersive Reader experience, okay? Everything that we saw before, including the voice, text size, increasing spacing, all that kind of thing, okay? And she can have that document read to her. She can highlight her nouns, her adjectives, her verbs, full Immersive Reader, translate, everything's happening from inside that. Now, what she can do though, is she could grab that document from her phone, as we saw a moment ago. She could drop it into OneDrive and then open it on her PC or on her Mac, all right? And then she can have the Immersive Reader experience on the local device. So we can do it on the device, or we can do it from that device into our PC or into our Mac. So that's how we take text outside the computer and bring it into the computer to be, or into the device and be accessed through Immersive Reader. Any questions about that?
Yeah, I have a question. Just because my classroom uses mainly iPads.
Yep.
And I guess my question is, when you said to use a Word document, you have to do it through the internet, but did you say with the app, you can get straight into Immersive Reader?
Immersive Reader through the iPad, you still need to be connected to the internet.
Yep.
But you need to be in OneNote.
Okay, so is that through app form?
Yeah, so again, if you go through the browser, you can use it just anywhere in office.com, like we just explored. But if you want to use it in the app, then you need to be in OneNote for the iPad.
All right, perfect.
Okay. But remembering, Immersive Reader, Zach, is built into Office Lens. So you can actually just take a photograph from Office Lens and run Immersive Reader inside Office Lens for the iPad.
All right, cool. And then like distributing like Word documents to them, should that be done through Teams? Just because we use Google Classroom at the moment.
Yeah, that should be done through Teams or through OneNote Class Notebook.
Yeah, cool.
Yep, cool. Karen, you have a question? You got your hand raised? You're on
Yes,
mute.
I'm just wondering how I download Microsoft Office Lens. I've been trying in the background to download the app when I've been in Office or looking at it, doing a search for it, but I can't seem to download the app.
Yeah, so remember, Office Lens is for your phone or your tablet. So you need to go to the App Store or your Play Store, depending on whether you're Google or Apple. And that's where you grab it from.
Thanks, sorry.
No, all good. Good question. Beata, you got a question?
Sorry, I do. I've downloaded it from my phone. My question is, I know you say to download whatever you've taken the photograph into your OneDrive. What do you have to press to do that? What do you have to actually physically do to do that? Once you have the document, you've taken the photo.
Yep.
You've opened your OneDrive. You've got a folder to pop it into.
Yep.
How do you pop it in?
So when you, you know what, Beata, I'm at your school tomorrow. So why don't I show you tomorrow how to do that? But basically what you do is when you finish with the, when you've got the image, you can click on, I think the button says done. I'm not exactly sure what the button says, but basically moves you to the next screen. And then you just click on the app that you want it to be dropped into and it will do that. But I'll show you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Anybody else? She's lucky she works at my wife's school, so I tend to go down there and help them out a bit. Anybody else? No? Okay, so we've looked at what we can do with OneNote documents, what we can do with Word documents, and we've even looked at using Office Lens to bring things from outside our device into multiple devices and being able to use. One thing you probably didn't notice is the graphics are stripped away when we're using Immersive Reader, right? The graphics are stripped away when we're using Immersive Reader. But when we're looking at Immersive Reader on a web page, we don't want the graphics to be stripped away. The graphics are actually really important. Imagine, you know, the web without graphics, right? So what we've done is we have built Immersive Reader into our new browser, which is called Edge. Okay, so what's happened is Microsoft has retired, well, we haven't retired yet, but it's coming to end of life, which is Internet Explorer. So if you're using that little light blue E, not the dark blue E, if you're using the light blue E, please stop, right? And move over with us to this new browser, which is called Edge. And when you update Edge, you'll know you have, because you'll have this really cool little wave icon here, and that's the new Edge. If you've got a dark blue E, you're using an older version of Edge. So just go to your favorite search engine, type download Edge, find the latest version of Edge, download it, and then install it onto your machine, all right? Because everything I'm about to show you is only going to be working if you're using a more recent version of Edge. So I'm going to come up here, and I thought I had that open. I guess I didn't. That's all right. So let's go to a website that I use all the time, which is this one here, the National Geographic one, the Phases of the Moon. Now have a look at this website, right? This is an education-based website, but for a lot of the kids you may be working with, this website is going to do their heads in. And here's why. There is so many colors, so many buttons, so many distractions. The text is, there's ads along the side. The text is constantly broken up with graphics and other things as well. There's just too much going on for a lot of our kids, all right? So what we've done is we've built Immersive Reader into the Edge browser, okay? So again, the Edge browser is that one there, okay? That's the icon. We're not talking Chrome, we're not talking Internet Explorer, we're not talking Firefox, we're talking Edge. And what we've done is we've built these features in, and it's all entirely free when you use the Edge browser. But can you see up here, there's my little Immersive Reader button, right? Can everyone see that? Someone give me a thumbs up. You can see that? Yep. Yep, very good. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. Now, when I click on the Immersive Reader button, what happens is Immersive Reader kicks in. Now, this is Immersive Reader for the browser, so we have to set this up the first time, but I've already set this one up, so we didn't have to go through all that again. But we set it up the first time, and then every time we come into a website that we turn Immersive Reader on, the article is going to always look the same. Now, look what it did first. It has stripped colors, ads, everything is gone, but the photographs that are part of the article are still there, but they're pulled away from the text a little bit, right? We have read aloud, okay? So it's going to read in that nice sounding Australian accent. Hopefully this is going to work for you guys. You can hear it. Could you hear that? No? Okay. Anyway, nice sounding Australian accent. Promise you it's there. Voice options are over here. Unlike Immersive Reader that we saw before, Immersive Reader in Edge, we can change the accent and everything just here, right? So that's one of the differences, right? We can change the accent and the language and all that in there. We can speed it up and slow it down. I'm going to turn that voice off now. We've got text preferences. Look, there's my text size, the slider again. There's my spacing for dyslexia, okay, increasing spacing. And there's my themes and colors and all that is there as well. So just like Immersive Reader we saw before. My grammar tools are over here. I can syllabify. I can highlight my nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, just like before. I can change the colors and I can show the labels. All right, so that's all done inside there as well. And then my reading preferences, I've got line focus if I want it, 1, 3, and 5 line. I've also got a picture dictionary in there as well. And I've got the ability to translate the web page into another language. So when you look at bringing documents in, right, external documents, we're probably going to use a combination of Office Lens and OneNote and Word and things like that. But when we're using web pages, we're going to be using in here. Now, people that were asking me about PDFs before, the Edge browser will open your PDFs, and Immersive Reader will work on your PDFs in Edge browser. Okay, so that's where you access that. And if yours isn't doing it, update to the latest version. How do we find the latest version? Look, I'll show you. Just open up your favorite browser and type in Get Edge. And this is only for Windows 10, folks. Sorry about that. But look what comes up. Download Microsoft Edge browser. Or you can say get, if you want to get Microsoft Edge. All right. So you can get the Microsoft Edge browser and you can download it from there. All right. And just make sure that you're running the latest, greatest version. So coming back to the phases of the moon, I can turn it on and off. Now, what happens sometimes though, and here's the caveat, right? What happens sometimes is websites will see this as ad stripping software and will disable Immersive Reader. So it is not going to work everywhere, okay? It is not going to work on every page and it is not going to work on every website. So for example, I live in Melbourne. When I go to the Age, Immersive Reader does not work on the start page of the Age, full of ads and videos anyway. But when I go down to article level, right, I start, then it starts working on some of those articles. All right. So again, make sure that you turn it on, okay, by pushing this button here. All right. If it doesn't, if it's grayed out, try refreshing your page. But if it's still not working, it could be because the ad stripper software is stopping you. But there's another way. Okay, and here's another thing. If you can't get the button to work on your article, just try highlighting the text that you're interested in and then right click, and there is Immersive Reader as well. You can also just do read aloud just on that section. You can open Immersive Reader, you can translate and other bits and pieces in there as well. All right, so rather than doing the whole document, I may just want to do that little piece of document and I go in there. That is more likely to work with the ad stripper software than doing the entire document. All right, does that make sense, people? Yeah. This is being recorded, so you will be able to access the recording and go back and watch this if you want, if you thinking, what did he say there? So again, we can turn it on here. If it's not working, usually most web pages will be fine. You highlight the piece of text you're interested in, you right click, and you turn on Immersive Reader. If you just want it read, you can just have it read. But if you want full Immersive Reader, you click on that and Bob's your uncle. Now, to get these features on Chrome, you will have multiple extensions and some of them are paid. So you're going to be going over here to click this and click that. This is free. It's part of Edge for Windows 10. Download it and, start using it. Okay, so that's what it looks like in Edge. Now, Forms. We've built Immersive Reader into Microsoft Forms. Now, if you don't know much about Forms, I encourage you to explore what Forms can do, because Forms can do some really amazing stuff. But let me open up Microsoft Forms. So I've just come into here, click on Forms. Now, the cool thing about Forms is, Forms you can do assessments, and if there's a definitive answer to the assessments, Forms will mark it for you. So the reason why you would want to use Forms is because I can do an assessment. So for example, here's one that was once upon a time a pen and paper test. Now, because I'm doing short answer, multiple choice, etc., I don't need to mark the entire test. The app will mark the questions that have a definitive answer for me, right? So for example, please enter your date of birth. Well, obviously it's not going to mark that because it's going to be different for every kid's. I've got a true and false. It will mark that, okay, because it's a true and false question. And then if it was a short answer, it won't mark them, but I can go in and just mark that question. So it's going to either completely reduce my marking or reduce it to a point. But the other thing that's cool about Forms is Forms will take all that data when you've finished and will throw it into Excel for you, right? And it will take more data than just the results. It will take the students' answers, the times they started the quiz, when they finished it, etc. It's a really, really good tool. It's a great time-saving tool. But I want to show you what this looks like. Now, if I'm a student and I am dyslexic or I am, low vision or whatever, I come into this assessment and I'm challenged by print for whatever reason. When I hover over the title, look what appears. My little Immersive Reader button, okay? And now what happens is Immersive Reader will read that title to me, okay? And I can have my full Immersive Reader. I could be Korean and having it translated into Korean. I can be doing the whole assessment in Korean if I wanted, all right? And then if we come down here to the true and false one, you can see I click on the question, the next question, and it's going to read the question. It's going to read the potential answers, and it even gives me a little, remember this is read to me, close the reader to input your answer. So I'm saying, okay, what's it going to be, the top one or the bottom one? That's fine. I come back in, I come back to the question. There's the top one and the bottom one, and off I go. So Immersive Reader will read your assessments to the students, okay? Forms, you're not going to be using Forms. Well, you will be using Forms in some of the work you're doing with the early years. But in terms of kids sitting in front of a computer and doing an assessment, we're really looking sort of, grade 2 and upwards, right? So keep that in mind. So that's what it looks like in Forms. Outlook. Outlook's very cool. So what we've done with Immersive Reader in Outlook, and this is at the moment in Outlook Online, but it is being rolled out to the full version of Outlook. And I'd love to know where all my, I had all these set up and they all seem to have vanished. I must have closed them by accident. So here I come into Outlook. All right, I'm a student, especially in secondary. The teacher's sending me a lot of emails and bits and pieces. So I click on my email. Come on, you can do it. Just let that load. Okay, so here's my email from, you can see it's just weird. I wrote an email to myself, but nevertheless, just pretend I didn't. So the student's getting an email from the teacher, has no idea what the teacher's saying. Clicking on the ellipses here, coming down to show an immersive reader, and the student can have their email read to them. When we look at dictate, I'm going to show you how the student can then dictate their email back to their teacher as well, which means the student can be locked out of print completely and still be using email, which is phenomenal. And again, same software as everybody else in the room, same computer as everybody else in the room. All right, so that's what it looks like in Outlook. The other thing, those of you that are aware, Minecraft Education Edition is part of your Office 365 A3 subscription. Most of your schools will have an A3 subscription. Some of you may be A1 and don't have Minecraft. Nevertheless, Minecraft Education Edition has built Immersive Reader into Minecraft. Minecraft originally did not speak, but now what happens is when a student comes to a piece of text, whether it's on a board or on a sign, or as a non-playing character is speaking to them, they can click on the Immersive Reader button. It will open Immersive Reader and they have the full Immersive Reader experience inside their Minecraft world, right? And for most of your students, that's a game changer. What we've done as well is with the picture dictionary, we've thrown in some of these Minecraft worlds and Minecraft tools and stuff so that they get a picture dictionary prompt with some of these Minecraft things, which is pretty amazing. Just looking at the time, we've only got about 3 minutes before lunch, folks. Immersive Reader has been released into PowerPoint Online, so keep an eye out for that when you're looking for Immersive Reader. We've also moved it into Teams, okay? So inside the chat, inside Teams, Immersive Reader is there. So those of you that are inside Teams, when you hover over, sorry, there goes my dog. When you hover over the chat, you get the ellipses, you can open Immersive Reader and the student can have the chat read to them. So if there's some sort of discussion happening, they can be a part of that. But remembering as well, OneNote lives inside Teams, Word lives inside Teams, Forms lives inside Teams. All these tools live inside Teams. So if we start moving our learning engagements into Teams, a lot of these inclusive classroom tools are there by default. So the teacher is not having to differentiate and create resources. The teacher just publishes her resources normally to Teams, and then the student is able to personalize by using Immersive Reader inside OneNote or Word or Dictate or the other things that they're using as well. Okay, the other thing is you need to keep an eye out. Some of your favorite apps have got Immersive Reader built in and we've given them for free. So they can do that. If you think, hey, wouldn't it be great if we had Immersive Reader in this app that you've got, you can reach out to your app publisher, steer them towards this link here, and they can, for free, build Immersive Reader into their apps. Another one that I've got here for you is all about Immersive Reader. So that's one of the resources on the Educator Center. When you get these slides, you can access this. The link is in there, education.microsoft.com. Immersive Reader, it's not a course, so you don't get points because there's no quiz, but it is a full, everything you need to know about Immersive Reader is living inside that web page there, okay? All right, now, what we are going to do, Jenna, you had a question, your hand is raised.
I was just wondering, in PowerPoint, where do you find the Immersive Reader?
Immersive Reader is in PowerPoint Online.
Yep, I'm on the online one and I'm even looking under view. I can't see anything that has Immersive Reader.
So forgive me if I got a little bit ahead of myself. It's definitely being released and it's being rolled out to different tenants as we speak. So it should turn up for you in the next month or so. Yep. It could turn up tomorrow. It could be there next month, but 100% it's being rolled out.
Cool, thank you.
No worries. Okay, so guys, what I want you to do now, we're going to go for lunch. All right, so we're going to take a half an hour. Thank you, Siri. We're going to take a half an hour. But as you take lunch, we're going to have a discussion here, but we've sort of run out of time. But I want you to think about some ways you might use Immersive Reader with your students, okay? Because already you're going to be looking at some of your students and thinking, this is great for such and such, this is great for so-and-so, right? But then the next question is, does Immersive Reader change the way you think about technology and accessibility for your students? And hopefully the answer is yes, right? That this has come a long way from, you know, bolding text and making text larger and things like this. Hopefully it's going to change that. So those are the questions to think about while you have lunch. I'm going to throw the chat up, the timer up now. I'm going to leave that there as well. Please make sure that you walk away from your machine. Sorry to be all patronizing, but yeah, please make sure that you walk away from your machine, take a break, stretch your legs, all that kind of stuff. When we come back, we're going to look at some of our writing features. We're going to have a little bit of a look at maths, and then we'll sort of take it from there. So I'll set the timer and I'll see you guys in half an hour, which is going to be 1:31 Eastern Time.
I can see you. Your camera's on. There you go.